Hi there, Nick Watts here for We Love Betting. I've been reduced to a Premier League monologue this week thanks to Chris Graham's trip north of the border. It's also something of a punishment for my big fat 0 out of 3 for my Premier League bets last weekend. I'll really try and do better this time around, I promise. First up, I'm going with West Brom against Everton, two teams that have started the season quite well. I was very anti-West Brom pre-season, and so far they've done their best to prove me wrong. Not only that, they obviously scored a late goal against Spurs to deny me. Having backed Spurs -1, I also then backed them in play at 10-11 at half time in that game, and that last minute goal I heard on Radio 5 Live and thought that maybe Spurs had scored to pay out on both, but instead it was West Brom denying me again, and I guess you've got to give them credit. Everton, though, been in fantastic form this season, obviously beating Manchester United, just completely outclassed Aston Villa last weekend, and there's a lot to be said for them here. They're kicking around at kind of the 6-4 mark and better. They're up against a West Brom side that didn't have a particularly fabulous home record last season. And I'm just not entirely convinced by Albion yet. I'm not ready to change my mind. I'm going to keep opposing them until I get something right here, and Everton seem like a good opportunity to do that. Everton actually won all 3 of their meetings in League and Cup against West Brom last season, which I think is somewhat significant. And they had an excellent record against sides that finished 9th and below in the division last season. They were undefeated against those teams, and although they drew quite a few of those, I think that they've got enough to beat West Brom on current form. For me, I'm looking at the draw no bet with those draws in mind. A little bit of insurance. It brings the price into about 4 to 5 you can get out there for them, draw no bet, and I think that's worth a punt, you know. I'm going for Everton, draw no bet in this one. Next up, I'm going to the Sunday games to at least prolong my positivity for the weekend. We've got 2 4 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday because of Newcastle's Europa League game, and I shall be taking a selection in each. First up, let's go with Southampton, Manchester United. Man United, their defensive worries have obviously been a concern. Conceded goals at home to Fulham, which they haven't done too often in the past. Obviously lost that game at Everton as well. But Johnny Evans is supposed to be fit again this weekend. Talk is that the likes of Rio Ferdinand will still be missing, but they should have something that actually resembles more of a defence this time around, and I'd expect them to win this game pretty comfortably, really, against the Southampton side, which is plucky and gives everything going forward, as they showed against Man City, but also showed against Wigan that they're a bit vulnerable to sucker punches. That maybe they're not the most defensively sound, and that would be a concern for me. Obviously against a Manchester United side that was absolutely ruthless against the smaller teams last year. Just looking down at my stats here, they won 7 of their 10 games against bottom half sides to 0. Manchester United, that was away from home, conceding just 3 goals in those games. So they were excellent defensively. Nicked a lot of games by the odd goal, but also had a few 5-0 thrashings in there as well, and when they really came alive. I'm really struggling to see how Southampton are going to be able to deal with the likes of Robin van Persie, Kagawa, and all the attacking talent in that Manchester United team. Not convinced that they'll be able to do anything really against them. United also excellent in the half-time stakes. Overall, they were the best team in the first half last year. Away from home, also the best. They're actually 7 points clear of City in that away half-time table. They won 12, drew 4, and lost 3 after the first 45, and I can see them easily kind of pushing into a lead in the first half against Southampton and going on to win the game, of course. And you can get 13-10 for them half-time, full-time with Paddy Power. I would definitely recommend that bet. I can see United being in somewhat rampant mood against the Southampton side that I don't have an enormous faith in their defence. Just finally, I mentioned then it was the other 4 o'clock kickoff that had caught my eye. Newcastle against Aston Villa. Big disappointment with Newcastle last weekend. I did think they were a big price, still think they were a big price, but the performance wasn't quite there, and just couldn't deal with Eden Hazard at the end of the day, who's taken to the Premier League obviously so well. They're playing a totally different proposition in Aston Villa this week. Not only are they at home, they're against a Villa side that's just, we expected a bit of a revival under Lambert, but it's just not really happened so far, has it? Completely outclassed by Everton, and Newcastle in a similar sort of class to me. for me as Everton, so I can see them winning this quite comfortably. I'm surprised to see them available at 4-6 in a way. You can get that with Sportingbet, who are obviously making a bit of a stand there. They haven't lost this fixture since 2005, Newcastle. They've won 4, drawn 2 of the last 6 meetings with Villa at St James's Park. They were undefeated versus bottom half teams at home last season, winning 7 of those 10 games. And you know, for me, they're just such a much better side than Villa that I'm not even really worried about the fact they had this Europa League game midweek. Just, you know, they played something of a second string. It was at home, obviously, which meant the travelling's not going to have impacted them as much. And they're playing at Sunday at 4 o'clock now, and I do think that's going to be fine for them to bounce back and win this game. 4-6, as I say, with Sportingbet. It looks a great shout to me. So just to run over those 3 again, quick recap. I'm going 4-5, draw no bet on Everton to beat West Brom. I'm going Manchester United half-time, full-time double result, that's 13-10. And finally, I'm going Newcastle to beat Aston Villa at home, 4-6.